Greetings all. Happy holidays. Happy Christmas if you celebrate Christmas. I'd like to share something with you that's just, to me, absolutely incredible. And I've had a couple of late nights with this text, with this manuscript, because I've just been absolutely captivated by it. It's, it's incredible, as you'll see when I read the translation here. Well, I hope you'll see. And this is the introduction to the Chummā-sanketa-prakāśa. And this is a text that has never been published. It's never been published in Sanskrit language. It's never been published in any other language. It's quoted in part in some of the scholarly literature, but the text itself has never been published. It exists in a single manuscript, just one single manuscript that I'm fortunate to have a photocopy of. And this manuscript comes from Kashmir, and it's written in the Sharada script. It's written in the Sanskrit language, but the Sharada script, which makes it a lot harder to read. It's not written in the modern script that Sanskrit usually appears in. So it's challenging, but this manuscript is something miraculous. You know, if I had discovered this manuscript, that would be, feel like enough accomplishment for an entire human lifetime. I didn't discover it. I don't know who did actually. It was carried from Kashmir to Germany, and Professor Sanderson discovered it in the in a Berlin manuscript library for rare and old Sanskrit manuscripts. And and then some copies have been shared around amongst students of Sanderson, including myself. And it's fortunate that we've managed to preserve this ancient text because, again, there's just one physical copy in the world. So anyway, enough introduction. I just want to share with you my translation of the first 35 verses of the text, and this is just the intro. This is the part that leads up to the actual teachings of the manuscript. And the teachings claim to be the otherwise lost secret teachings of the yoginis, the empowered female practitioners of the tantric tradition, specifically the Kaula tantric tradition. So this is the introduction to those teachings, purportedly revealed as an oral transmission by these empowered yoginis. Okay, so this intro is remarkable because it's told in the first person. It's actually a first-person narrative of spiritual awakening, which is incredibly rare in the scriptural tradition. The scriptures are almost always written in an abstract third person. There's almost never any kind of first-person report of spiritual breakthrough. So to find this in an ancient Sanskrit manuscript is remarkable, and it's a bit like I don't know, receiving a transmission. So the authorship of this introduction is traditionally ascribed to a fellow named Nishkriyānanda-Nātha. And we're missing the first page of the manuscript. We're actually just missing it. So it starts off on the second page, and it cuts right in the middle of a dramatic narrative. So if it begins abruptly, now you know why, it's indeed missing the first page. And it can't be supplemented from some other manuscript because this is the only one. Okay. Oh, please forgive the many superlatives. Our author is fond of like hyperbole and superlatives, but still the power of the narrative comes across even so. And this is a literal translation, by the way. This is my literal translation. This is not, you know, watered down, but it's also not, you know, fancied up. Okay, here it is. The opening verses of the Chummā-sanketa-prakāśa. Due to the intensity of his gaze falling upon me, I immediately toppled to the earth like a tree cut at its root. Lying there, I was suddenly overcome with a state unsurpassable, unparalleled, not dependent on external or internal faculties, incomprehensible to the mind, free from fear and pain, transcending the power of the dichotomies of time, pervading yet transcending the radiant abodes, unlocalizable, neither instantaneous nor sequential, overflowing with a flood of wonder and supreme joy, beyond touch, beyond bliss, beyond possession or relation, free from confusion about existence and non-existence, thoughtful yet thoughtless, by nature free of cognition and the stain of the latent traces thereof. In that state I remained motionless for a long time. Then somehow, by the power of his grace, I awakened somewhat, dizzy with amazement at the refreshing delight of that unprecedented consciousness, overcome with wonder, and giddy with irrepressible joy. Since all concept of self had departed, and I was now averse to the prolixity of Scripture, I asked a question of that Siddha Lord with the manuscript in his hand. O Lord, I have experienced by your grace the extraordinary, carefree state that is difficult to attain. Tell me, how may I perceive it constantly, everywhere, in every way, O Master? Then that great one, staying completely silent, cast a glance full of immediacy into the upper atmosphere. And the unlocatable Supreme Word, who is one with Shiva, emerged from her abode, the highest heavens. Paravak. She, who articulates herself as the various levels of representation culminating in the spoken word, yet transcends the totality of those levels. She is free of the need for any substrate, and it is she whom we call Bhairavi, her nature unlocalizable. Because she bestows eternally and without divisions the experience of the supreme wilderness without need for a fixed abode, that state which is Bhairavi herself, free from all obscurations, she is also known as Attavila, the wandering wild one, the embodiment of the ever-fresh void, the supremely beautiful embodiment of perfect fusion with the extraordinary rays of consciousness. The goddess laughingly said to me, "Why have you been so arrogant? Of what use is this net of scriptural knowledge? Even now you have not shaken off your delusion. O learned one, look at the manuscript in the hand of Siddha-Nātha. You who would reach the farther shore of the wisdom of the Chummā, know that its 5 knots, still firmly bound, represent the power of the 5 senses, and its 2 rings are the ornaments called waking and dreaming." Here, in brief, the teaching of the 2 protective boards of the manuscript. The exhale, with its 7 peaks, is said to be the upper board, and the lower board has the form of the inhale. In reality, I abide as these 2 flows. These 2 boards are also taught as the unfolding of the sequences of immanence and transcendence, and as immersion into the activated and quiescent expansions. Above is the expansive, full-bodied power whose nature is the unfolding. Below is the one whose body is emaciated, the sovereign power that devours all. Kali. Break open these 2 boards, and through the power of your awareness, behold in the center the supernal void beyond the great void, free of the transient and the eternal, the supreme spaciousness, unlocalizable and unsurpassable, transcending all. It is unmanifest, yet eternally exists in everything, free of all veils, the supreme end of the process of creation, stasis, and dissolution, the devouring of time itself, your own inner nature, and the scope of all your activity. Unquote. That's the end of the goddess's speech. So our narrator, our author says, "Suddenly I experienced the ultimate reality in this very way and abandoned completely the net of scriptural learning without remainder. Then the wise Siddha Lord, likewise transcendent of the need for scriptural elaboration, gazed at me and suddenly said, 'Noble-minded son, you are now qualified and fit for this great Chummā, difficult to access.' Filled with compassion, the Master enlightened me concerning the teaching of the extraordinary Chummās, together with their detailed explanation, difficult to understand for even the greatest yogis. Due to that teaching, I suddenly ascended to the great, imperishable domain of immediacy, becoming blessed with the state of total awakeness. In the same way, I will teach in its fullness that unprecedented, inexpressible wisdom that dissolves the flood of mental rumination in the supernal reality that I have realized through the grace of the Siddha Lord. And now the author directly addresses the reader. He addresses you. You have been devoted to all the pilgrimage sites, remaining always like a devout and pious person, yet even now you have not attained the supreme repose. Paravishranti. Why continue to wander with your mind full of doubts, my child? Enough. You are now ready for the highest wisdom. I will teach you in proper sequence the eternally proclaimed oral tradition, just as I received it, that teaching beyond philosophy, beyond the four Kaula traditions, even beyond the scriptural Krama teaching, ultimately free from the distinction of worshipped and worshipper. Listen, with mind one-pointed, with awareness blossomed open. Listen to the full expanse of the secret teachings that are worthy of being known. So that's the introduction. One could make the argument that that last part is not addressed to the reader, but is another quotation from the Siddha Lord to the protagonist here, the narrator. But that wouldn't make sense because the narrator has already, as he said, ascended to the imperishable domain of immediacy, blessed with the state of total awakeness. To me, the only thing that makes sense is that, this is an extraordinary moment, unprecedented in Sanskrit manuscripts, where the narrator, the author, as it were, turns and looks at the camera, breaks the fourth wall, addresses you. So beautiful. Why continue to wander with your mind full of doubts, my child? Enough. You're now ready for the highest wisdom. And that wisdom is what follows the 105 Chummās, or feminine sutras. A Chummā is like a sutra, but revealed by the empowered yoginis in oral transmission. And that it gets emphasized over and over again here, that this is a mukamnaya. This is an oral transmission that is only now, in this manuscript, getting written down. Okay, so that's the share. That's a little Christmas present for you guys. It's really something special, this text. I'm excited to be delving into it finally. I've known about it for years, and those of you who have read Tantra Illuminated closely know that, or you might recall, that a piece of this is actually quoted in Tantra Illuminated. But at that time, I hadn't seen the manuscript yet. I was just quoting Sanderson's quote from this text. So, that was like one or two steps removed, as it were. And now I've been, looking at the original, and was able to translate this section in the past couple days. So, more to come. Hope you enjoyed that. It's this fascinating voice coming to us from the ancient past and carrying the secret wisdom that is not part of the known corpus of, Tantric Shaivism, or what's known as Kashmir Shaivism oftentimes, because this text was never published. That's as far as I've got up to, you guys. So, more to come. Happy holidays. Merry Christmas. May you be well. And I look forward to seeing you soon. Oh, those of you on the who are in the Tantrika Online, website, will do a class tomorrow for that, a special bonus class on the non-dual teachings of Jesus from the Gnostic Gospel of Thomas, which I've read over the years many times. Anyway, see you tomorrow. Om.